I went on my first diet at the age of 17, weighing a modestly overweight 12 stone 7. As I've explained, living in our own home at last, I had a sense of freedom to run my own life. I had escaped Mum's control, and this meant I could eat more of my favourite comfort foods. However, as my life experience expanded, so did my waistline. Back in the early 60s, there weren't many options available if you wanted some help with your weight. Doctors then, as now, weren't geared up to deal effectively with overweight and obese patients. Obesity was still a fledgling problem, affecting only 1 or 2% of the population, as opposed to 26% today. So it was by no means the killer and the quality of life destroyer it is in 2019, though the seeds for our obesity crisis were already being sown. In the absence of any good solid help, charlatans and false promises of no effort weight loss abounded. I went to see one doctor who prescribed amphetamines. Although they removed all desire for food, and I do mean completely, I soon found that the side effects were so horrible that even zero hunger on a starvation regime and a consequent fast weight loss weren't worth it. My heartbeat became erratic, and it felt as if my brain was actually vibrating in my skull. I seemed to be thinking faster than anyone else too, so would quickly become irritated because they couldn't seem to keep up. So I stopped taking them. So there I was at 17, looking for help to lose weight. Are you old enough to remember Limits slimming biscuits? They were meal replacement biscuits, either sweet or savoury. The sweet ones, my chosen ones, looked a little like round bourbon creams, like today's Oreos. You were instructed to replace 2 meals a day with 2 biscuits taken with a glass of milk. Because I was in a desperate hurry to shed the weight, sound familiar? I ignored the rules. No change there then. And I ate just 1 biscuit with a black coffee for breakfast, 1 for lunch, and then a tea plate holding a boiled egg, a tomato, and a bit of lettuce for dinner. For 2 months. No deviation. Feeling good as the weight came off. Feeling very pleased with myself. Yes, feeling great and looking great too. Sure enough, the next time I faced the scales, I'd lost 2 stones. I was thrilled to bits. I've cracked it, I thought. Believing now I could go back to normal food and breathing a sigh of relief that it was all over and done with, I did what any intelligent, strong-willed, capable person does after they've fixed their weight problem. I retraced my steps and went back to a more comfortable way of eating, to my old way of eating, and regained every single pound. I compounded that mistake with another one, deciding incorrectly that 12 stone 7 was my natural weight. With a shrug I thought, well, not so bad. Size 16, I'll stay here then. Another few months down the road and I stood on a pair of scales to discover, horror of horrors, that I was now 14 stone 7 pounds. A new record. And even that wasn't the peak of my weight gain. I continued to break new records. Here in the latter part of the 60s began my fascination with slimming, with the science of nutrition and, more importantly, with the fascinating psychological and emotional aspects of losing weight. By 1968, I was beginning to realise that I needed more in life, and not just financially. I needed a job that interested and challenged me. I knew that without at least 4 O-levels, hard evidence that I was sufficiently intelligent and academic to be able to punch holes in a keycard at a factory. Yes, you needed 4 O-levels for that. I didn't stand a chance of getting an interview for anything that would capture my imagination. I'd need to create that position myself. I'd need to become self-employed. By now I was 20 years old and I'd had an issue with my size for as long as I could remember. My blind faith in one wacko unsustainable weight loss fad after another had led me from failure to failure, my confidence disintegrating a little more with each one. At around 16 stones and still determined to lose this dastardly weight, I tried both major slimming clubs that were around at the time. One was a glorified coffee morning, completely unstructured and no use to anyone trying to lose weight. The other, rigidly structured, reminded me of being back in Miss Marsh's class at junior school. In that one, you were left feeling lectured to, judged, and humiliated. Even as a girl skipping about the schoolyard, I'd never been able to stand back if I saw another person being picked on, and I'd get into fights. Real fisticuffs to defend them. By my late teens and early 20s, I felt just as defensive over overweight people. Surely there was a better way to help people like me. Surely. I believed every overweight person deserved to be treated as an adult with respect, kindness and compassion. A conviction that's just as strong today. The more I thought about it, the more energised I became. I dabbled in hairdressing and jewellery parties in the evenings and at weekends to earn a bit more money, but I just knew that this wasn't it. I remember thinking to myself, if I'm going to be self-employed, I need to find something I know about. What do I know about? One thing was for sure. I was becoming quite the expert in failed diet attempts. I had this feeling, though, maybe it wasn't me that was failing. Maybe the diets were failing me. Maybe the help I so desperately needed didn't yet exist. So I started to widen my reading. I pored over Richard McManus's Eat Fat and Grow Slim, better known as the Eskimo diet, John Yudkin's pioneering theories on sugar, the precursor to his 92 book Pure, White and Deadly, and Dr. Atkins' emerging work on protein-rich diets. Trial, and plenty of error, showed me 2 things. One was that restricting a particular food group was much easier to live with than restricting portion sizes or eating weird diet foods. I also noticed that diets which included a lot of meat and fish made me feel more full after eating, thank goodness, and therefore I was less likely to cave into temptation between meals. It would be some 30 years before Professor James Stubbs published his important scientific paper on the influence of dietary macronutrients and energy density on appetite and satiety. Research that Slimming World sponsored together with the Scottish office. Turns out my early hunch was right. Protein-rich foods, closely followed by complex carbohydrates, are the most filling, and eating them helps us to stay feeling full for longer too. Maybe, just maybe, I was onto something. Could I start my own slimming club? Could I? There was only one way to find out.